Everyone thinks Michael Burry is a guy who makes one big call and then disappears. But that's not how he actually operates. He watches the market like a doctor watches a patient. Pulse, blood pressure, temperature. And when the numbers don't match the story, he doesn't adjust. He flips the whole thing. And that's exactly what happened. Because in Scion Asset Management's latest 13F filing for the quarter ended September 30th, 2025, filed November 3rd, 2025, Burry's portfolio basically got wiped and rebuilt. Only a handful of names are left. 5 stocks walking into. 5 bullish bets that tell you exactly what kind of market he thinks we're. And hovering over those 5 are 2 massive short bets that tell you what he thinks is about to break. So today, we're breaking down the 5 stocks Burry still wants exposure to octern, what they have in common, and what they reveal about the next phase of this market, especially if the crash everyone's whispering about actually shows up. But there's one thing you need to understand before we start. A 13F is not a live feed, it's a snapshot. It's what the fund reported holding at the end of the quarter, and it can be weeks old by the time you see it. So don't treat this like a copy trade shopping list. Treat it like a crime scene. We're not here to worship the trades. We're here to read the evidence. All right, let's start with the 5 leftover names, and then we'll talk about the shadow bets that explain why he flipped. Quick disclaimer. This is educational, not financial advice. I'm not telling you to buy anything. I'm showing you what was disclosed and how to think about it like a risk-aware investor. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Because if you zoom out, this isn't just 5 random picks. It's a pattern. A very specific pattern. Burry is building what I call a barbell portfolio. On one side, the things he thinks can survive. On the other side, the thing he thinks is dangerously overpriced. And the 5 longs are not to-the-moon names. They're not feel-good names. They're not the kind of stocks people brag about at a party. They're the kind of positions you build when you're preparing for stress. So let's count them down. Stock number 5, SLM. The Student Loan Pressure Gauge. This is the one that makes most people do a double take, because Sallie Mae is not a sexy story. It's not AI. It's not crypto. It's not even a trendy consumer brand. It's student loans. In the 13F, Scion reported holding 480,054 shares of SLM, valued around $13.3 million. Now ask yourself, why would a crash-watching contrarian choose a student loan lender as one of the few straight equity positions he keeps? Because SLM isn't just a stock. It's a signal about the consumer, a signal about stress, a signal about what happens when the cost of living stays high, rates stay elevated, and wages don't keep up. If the economy is a house, student loan payments are one of the beams people try to ignore. You can pretend for a while. But eventually the weight shows up in defaults, delinquency, and spending cuts. And that's where the trade gets sneaky. Because if you believe consumer stress is building, there are 2 ways to play it. 1. You short the consumer. 2. Or you buy the businesses that get repriced like they're going to die, even if they survive. SLM often trades under a cloud. Regulation risk, political risk, default risk. And that cloud keeps the valuation depressed. So, Burry doesn't need this to be a perfect company. He needs it to be a mispriced one. But don't miss the warning label. A lender's good times depend on repayment behavior. If the economy cracks harder than expected, credit names can get hit fast. So the correct way to read this isn't, Burry bought it, so I buy it. It's, Burry thinks consumer stress is real, but he also thinks the market may already be pricing in too much doom in certain corners. And if that's true, SLM becomes a pressure gauge for everything else in your portfolio. If SLM starts breaking down, that's not about student loans, that's about the consumer. All right, now we move from debt to a brand that looks like a luxury, but might be something else entirely. Stock number 4, Lululemon, LULU, the quality at a discount bet. If you were expecting Burry's remaining longs to be all boring utilities, this one might surprise you. Because Scion reported 100,000 shares of Lululemon, valued around $17.8 million. And according to coverage of the filing, this was an increase. He raised the position from roughly 50,000 shares to 100,000. So why would a crash watcher buy a premium athleisure brand? Here's the thing. Lululemon isn't just leggings. It's a pricing power test. It's a demand durability test. In a real downturn, the first thing that dies is the nice-to-have spending. But the last thing to die? Habit spending. And for a certain customer base, Lululemon has become habit. Not because it's cheap, because it's identity. Now, does that mean it can't fall in a crash? Of course it can. Everything falls when liquidity disappears. But here's the contrarian logic. When a high-quality brand gets repriced like it's permanently broken, that's when value investors start circling. The market has a habit of overcorrecting. It overpays in the boom, then it overpunishes in the fear. Burry made his name betting on that exact kind of mispricing. So Lululemon in this portfolio reads like, I want selective exposure to a high-quality consumer brand, but only after it's been hit, hated, and discounted. And it also tells you something else. Burry is not positioning like someone expecting a depression where nobody buys anything. He's positioning like someone expecting a repricing, where strong businesses survive, but the valuations get crushed. That's not a the world ends trade. That's a the market sobers up trade. Now let's move to the first truly defensive long on the list, because this one is where you start seeing the architecture of the portfolio. Stock number 3, Molina Healthcare, MOH. The recession-resilience play Scion reported 125,000 shares of Molina Healthcare, valued around $23.9 million. And if you're wondering why healthcare shows up in a crash prep portfolio, think about what happens when the economy weakens. People lose jobs. People lose employer insurance. People shift to government programs. And that doesn't necessarily shrink the healthcare system. It shifts where the money flows. Molina is deeply tied into managed care programs, the kind that don't disappear just because the S&P has a bad quarter. In other words, if the market is a casino, healthcare is the building the casino sits in. You can lose money at the tables, but you still need the building. And here's why this one matters in Burry's flip. According to coverage of the filing, Scion initiated new stakes in healthcare names like Molina while exiting prior healthcare and tech-related call positions. That's a rotation out of momentum exposure and into cash flow exposure. But don't confuse defensive with safe. Healthcare is political, reimbursement changes, regulatory shifts, headline risk, investigations. This sector can get punched in the face overnight. So, what does it mean that Burry wants it anyway? It means he believes two things can be true at the same time. 1. The market is fragile. 2. Some cash flow systems are still undervalued relative to the risk. And he's building a portfolio that can function inside that contradiction. Now, we go from healthcare to energy. And this is where Burry stops being subtle, because he didn't buy Halliburton stock. He bought leverage. Stock number 2, Halliburton, HAL, the energy shock option. In the filing, Scion disclosed call options on 2,500,000 shares of Halliburton, valued around $61.5 million. Let's translate that into plain English. Burry isn't just saying, I like energy. He's saying, if I'm right, I want this to move fast, because call options are leverage. They can pay off big if the stock rises, and they can also expire worthless. So why take that kind of swing in a portfolio that's otherwise defensive? Because energy shocks don't arrive politely. They hit like a door kicked open. War, sanctions, supply chain problems, a sudden cut in production, a surprise spike in demand, an inflation flare-up. And when that happens, the market doesn't reprice energy in slow motion. It snaps. If you believe the world is moving into a period of higher volatility, energy becomes less like a sector and more like a hedge against chaos. Halliburton is not the company that owns the oil. It's the company that services the machines that get the oil. It sits inside the activity cycle. So if prices move and drilling picks up, services benefit. Now, does this mean Burry thinks oil is going to the moon? Not necessarily. It could mean he thinks energy is underowned, and the risk of a sudden repricing is being ignored. And if you've ever lived through a real market panic, you know the first thing people realize is the world still runs on physical reality. Ships, fuel, electricity, logistics. When the narrative breaks, the physical world doesn't. That's why a leveraged bet on an energy services name shows up here. But there's a warning inside the warning. Calls expire, meaning this is a time-bound view. Burry is not just saying energy matters. He's saying energy might matter soon. And that brings us to the number one bullish position. The biggest long exposure in the filing is also the most classic Burry idea on the list, a hated giant, a depressed valuation, and a bet that the crowd is wrong. Stock number 1, Pfizer, PFE, the dead money. Reversal. Bet in the filing, Scion disclosed call options on 6 million shares of Pfizer, valued around $152.9 million. This is the biggest bullish exposure in the portfolio. And it makes sense if you understand Burry's DNA. He loves trades where the story is negative, expectations are low, and the downside is already priced in. Pfizer post-pandemic became a perfect dead money candidate in the eyes of many investors. The hype left. The easy comps faded. The market moved on to the next shiny thing. And when a stock becomes dead money, institutions stop defending it. It gets sold. It gets ignored. It gets treated like it's over. That's the moment contrarians start paying attention. Now, why calls? Same answer as Halliburton. Leverage. Burry isn't saying, I want to hide in Pfizer forever. He's saying, if the market rotates into defensives, or if this company surprises the market, or if valuation mean reversion hits, I want a position that can pay quickly. Pfizer is also a stock that tends to behave differently when fear rises. When investors stop trusting the future, they start paying for cash flows, dividends, and businesses that sell necessity. Medicine is not optional. So Pfizer in this portfolio looks like a bet on a rotation, out of future dreams, into real cash now. But don't ignore the risk. Pharma is pipeline-driven. Patent cliffs are real. Regulatory pressure is real. This is not a safe bond substitute. It's an asymmetric bet, a bet where the crowd's pessimism might be too extreme. So now we've covered the 5 leftover long ideas. SLM, Lululemon, Molina, Halliburton, Pfizer. And if you only looked at those 5, you might think Burry is just building a weird defensive watch list. But that's not the real story. The real story is what's hovering over the entire portfolio, like a thundercloud. Because while he holds those 5 bullish positions, he also placed 2 enormous bearish bets against the AI trade. And that's the part that explains the flip. The shadow positions, the 2 bets that explain everything, in the same 13F. Scion disclosed put options on 5 million shares of Palantir, with a reported value of $912.1 million, 1 million shares of Nvidia, with a reported value of $186.6 million. Put options are a way to profit if a stock falls. And together, these 2 positions dominate the filing. Multiple outlets describe these AI-linked puts as the bulk of Scion's reported portfolio. Now, this is where people get confused. Headlines see $912 million and assume Burry spent $912 million, but 13F filings don't tell you the strike price. They don't tell you the expiration, and they don't tell you the premium in a clean, easy-to-copy way. Even Burry himself has criticized the way people misunderstand 13F reporting, arguing that the headline number can distort what's really going on. So let's keep it honest. What we do know is this. As of September 30th, 2025, he wanted a very large downside exposure to 2 companies that have become symbols of the AI boom. And that tells you his core thesis. He thinks the AI trade is priced like a fairy tale, not priced like a business cycle, because this is what bubbles always do. They don't just inflate prices. They inflate confidence. And confidence is the most fragile asset in the market. In the late 1990s, it was the internet. In the early 2000s, it was telecom infrastructure. In 2007, it was housing, different products, same psychology. A story becomes a religion, and anyone who questions it gets laughed at, right up until the moment the market stops caring about the story. And when the story breaks, the repricing is violent. That's the Burry DNA you're watching in real time. He doesn't need the world to end. He just needs the crowd to sober up. And the moment sobriety hits a momentum trade, liquidity disappears. That's why these puts matter. They're not just bets. They're the other side of the barbell. One side, selective longs in areas he thinks are mispriced. Other side, a hit against what he thinks is the most crowded trade on Earth. Now here's what makes the portfolio flip so dramatic. Coverage of the filing noted that Scion exited multiple prior holdings and calls, including names like Estee Lauder, United Health, Regeneron, and other tech-related calls. So this isn't a gentle rebalance. This is a reset, a full new board. And the 5 remaining longs start to make more sense when you see them as the things he wants to own, if the AI side of the market deflates. Now, before we wrap this up, there's one extra detail in the filing that almost nobody talks about, because it's not a common stock. It's not a famous brand. But it's a clue about how Burry thinks. Bonus clue: Bruker preferred the capital structure. Move in the information table. Scion also reported holding Bruker Corp's 6.375% preferred Series A shares, 48,334 shares valued around $13.1 million. Most people won't even count that as a stock. But it matters because it shows you how Burry hunts. He doesn't just pick companies. He looks for mispricing in the structure. Common stock, preferred stock, debt, options. Different layers of the same business can trade like different worlds. And in uncertain markets, preferred shares can sometimes offer a weird mix of yield-like behavior equity upside and a different risk profile than the common. And according to coverage of the filing, this Bruker position was reshaped from common into preferred, a move that fits the theme: defensive, value-oriented, structure-aware. That's a very Burry thing to do. Because when markets get fragile, the biggest edge isn't predicting the headline. It's understanding where the crowd is mispricing risk. Now, let's zoom out. Because the real value of this video isn't memorizing 5 tickers. It's understanding the pattern behind them. The pattern, what these 5 names are really saying. Burry's 5 stocks left aren't a random shopping cart. They're a message that says, 1. The consumer is under pressure, but certain credit names may be mispriced, SLM. 2. Quality brands can be bargains when fear is loud, LULU. 3. Healthcare cash flows are still a fortress when the economy shakes, MOH. 4. Energy volatility can snap back fast, and leverage matters, HAL calls. 5. The market could rotate hard into boring value and defensives, PFE calls. And over all of it, a giant warning sign. The AI trade might be priced for perfection, and perfection is the first thing to die when sentiment flips. So, what do you do with this information without getting yourself wrecked? Here are 3 rules that keep you sane. Rule number 1, don't copy. Translate. A 13F is a delayed report. If you buy something because you saw it in a filing, you might be buying the end of the trade. Instead, translate the position into a thesis. What environment is this built for? Rule number 2. Watch the barbell. Burry is not all-in bearish. He's hedged, and that's the point. If you think a crash is possible, you don't need a perfect prediction. You need a portfolio that doesn't die if you're wrong. Rule number 3. Keep dry powder. Every crash creates 2 kinds of investors, the ones forced to sell and the ones finally able to buy. The difference isn't genius, it's liquidity. And if there's one lesson Burry's career screams, it's this: margin of safety isn't a slogan, it's survival. Final recap. Burry's latest disclosed snapshot shows 5 bullish exposures that look built for a stressed, rotating market: SLM, LULU, MOH, HAL, PFE, and 2 huge bearish exposures aimed at the heart of the AI boom: Palantir and Nvidia puts. That is not a normal portfolio. That is a portfolio designed for a mood swing, a moment where the market stops paying for dreams and starts paying for reality. So here's the final question. If Burry is right, and the AI trade is the bubble inside the bubble, what happens to the rest of the market when that confidence cracks? That's the next video. Click the video on screen because I'm going to break down the 5 warning signs that show up right before the crowd realizes the party is over.